Chapter 1293. Han Jiangxue floated quietly at the side and watched Jiang Shao and Meng Long play. Just like that, after a long time, she did not feel impatient at all. Instead, she felt that the time was wonderful. Little Meng Long was very adorable and could change into various forms. It seemed to be showing off what it had seen and heard at Jiang Shao. After so many years of solitude, it had experienced and seen everything. On the other hand, Jiang Shao followed Meng Long's transformation and changed his form again and again. No matter how illusory and ethereal star beast Meng Long turned into, it would become a fleshy and clumsy fellow when it came to Jiang Shao. In the Dragon Cave, where there was no sky, earth, sun, moon, or stars, no one seemed to be able to feel the passage of time. Han Jiangxue's eyes were initially focused on Meng Long, but she slowly fixed them on Jiang Shao. Looking at his cheeky smile, Han Jiangxue somehow hoped that they could spend more time together like that for a little longer. The human, dragon, and whale played for a long time when Jiang Zhao's body suddenly stiffened. Clearly, he was not shocked because of Meng Long's transformation, but because something had happened while they were communicating telepathically. Han Jiangxue stared at Jiang Shao with bewilderment in her heart, but she did not go forward to disturb him. A few seconds later, Jiang Shao turned his head to look at Han Jiangxue with joy and said, "They don't seem to be dead." Han Jiangxue raised her eyebrows slightly and subconsciously asked, "They?" As soon as she said that, Han Jiangxue seemed to have realized something. That Jiang Shao was referring to was probably her parents. "Mom and Dad seem to be fine," Jiang Shao frantically said. "This little guy sent them. Han Jiangxue's heart was in her throat as she asked in a trembling voice, "Where did they go?" Jiang Zhao's expression gradually turned solemn, and he said, "The real world? What do you mean? What do you mean by the real world? Isn't our world real?" Han Jiangxue was about to ask something, but she heard Jiang Shao mumbling, "Oh, I misunderstood. You mean the outside world? Another world?" Jiang Shao said carefully, "Then, can you lead the way for me and take us to see my parents? We're their children." "Huh? You know? How did you know?" Jiang Xiaoming was stunned for a moment and scratched his head. For a time, the dragon cave fell into silence again. Jiang Shao smacked his lips and said, "Say something." Jiang Shao then looked up at the humming whale, thinking that there was something wrong with it. Buzz! The humming whale expressed its grievance and let out a cry that echoed in this strange space. "There's nothing wrong with me. This guy suddenly stopped talking and stopped sending images to my mind. What do you want me to say?" Jiang Shao turned to look at Meng Long, who was floating in midair and emitting wisps of mist. He asked again, "Can you bring us to see your parents?" At the next moment, little Meng Long flew towards Jiang Shao. Jiang Shao licked his lips excitedly with a look of anticipation. However, Meng Long circled around Jiang Shao again and sized him up. In fact, little Meng Long finally showed some signs of beastly behavior. It actually used its transparent nose to sniff the scent on Jiang Zhao's body, as if trying to confirm something. Jiang Shao remained motionless, not knowing what it wanted to do. After observing for more than 10 minutes, the mischievous Meng Long became extremely cautious. Finally, it floated in front of Jiang Zhao's face. Its almost transparent face was infinitely close to Jiang Zhao's face. Although its entire body was illusory and transparent, it was still emitting wisps of mist. After all, its long whiskers swept across Jiang Zhao's face, giving him a chilly sensation. Jiang Shao resisted the urge to lean back. He had no choice but to admit that he was kissed. "As long as you can lead the way and bring me to the outside world, I don't mind letting you kiss me once." However, Jiang Shao seemed to have thought too much. Buzz! A small dragon's roar sounded. Under Jiang Zhao's astonished gaze, Meng Long plunged into his chest. Well, to be exact, it pierced through Jiang Zhao's chest. It was also at this moment that Jiang Shao felt the surrounding environment change. It was no longer pitch black and no longer surrounded by mysterious star power words in the Dragon Cave. What replaced it was a patch of bright sky. There was a strong wave of star power. Jiang Shao was shocked. What kind of existence could emit such a strong wave of star power? Jiang Xiao could not even catch his breath. The surrounding light had clearly become brighter, and he seemed to be standing under the scorching sun. In front of Jiang Xiao, it was no longer an illusory world, but a scorched land. Scorched land? Jiang Xiao blinked and retreated with the sea devouring robe on him. However, there was still scorched land in front of him. Jiang Xiao could not help but look up. Apart from scorched land, there was more scorched land. An ethereal voice suddenly came from beside him. Jiang Xiao hurriedly turned around and saw the Meng Long that had changed its appearance. It was no longer transparent, and the outline of its body was outlined by the white flames. The wisps of mist emitted from little Meng Long's body had also turned into layers of fire mist. Buzz, the flaming Meng Long, shook its head and flew up a few meters. It then turned its exquisite and charming flaming Meng Long's head and looked at Jiang Xiao with its vertical eyes. It then hooked its tail at Jiang Xiao. This action is very lifelike. You want me to follow you? Jiang Xiao blinked and thought, even if you bite me, I'll accept it. What's the point of following you? Jiang Xiao immediately flew upwards. The two of them flew vertically for a long time. The scorched land on Jiang Xiao's right was like a mountain with no peak. Not only was it endless, but it also had no end in sight. Just how big was this mountain? Could it be? Jiang Xiao vaguely had a guess in his heart. While Jiang Xiao was flying, he could not help but look to his left, only to see a blurry image. It seemed like there was everything, but it also seemed like he could not see anything clearly. Isn't this a little too metaphysical? What is this place? Is this? The more he could not see clearly, the more Jiang Xiao wanted to see it clearly. Just as he was flying upwards rapidly and competing with the pixelated world, he heard a chirp from above. Buzz! However, this time, Jiang Xiao could tell that something was different. Little Meng Dragon's voice was no longer cheerful. Instead, it was low and it was completely different from its previous state. Previously, this mischievous little dream dragon was a little arrogant, but it had always been in a state of cheerful laughter. However, at this moment, Jiang Xiao could hear a tinge of sadness in the chirp. Jiang Xiao hurriedly turned his head, only to see the outline of a huge eye. A tightly shut eye? That piece of skin that resembled a cracked earth outlined the shape of an eye socket. The lines on the eyelids were densely packed and could be said to be scorched. Jiang Xiao even felt a little uncomfortable looking at it. Jiang Xiao calmed himself down and could no longer care about following Little Meng Dragon. In a flash, he retreated 1,000 meters away. Finally, he understood what the mountain he saw just now was. It's actually a person. A person who is almost the same size as Earth Akatsuki. No, this mysterious person is even bigger than Earth Akatsuki. He's a true god-level star warrior with an indomitable and magnificent body. However, the difference between this person and Earth Akatsuki was that his entire body was scorched. Be it the cracked and fragmented skin or the color of the skin, they were all gray and black scorched earth. It turned out that Jiang Xiao had been flying upwards while sticking close to his chest. In Jiang Xiao's vision, the burning Meng Dragon was pitifully small, just like a faint flame line. That thin and small flame line slowly floated to the front of the scorched face. It continuously spun in his sunken eye sockets and let out a sorrowful cry. Buzz, buzz! The sorrowful cries made Jiang Xiao's heart almost break. Was this mysterious star warrior once the owner of Meng Dragon? Why is Little Meng Dragon so sad? Is it because its owner is already dead? To be honest, Jiang Xiao and Meng Dragon had not known each other for a long time and had yet to establish a deep relationship. However, even an ordinary person would feel sympathetic when they see a crying baby abandoned on the street. Just as Jiang Xiao attempted to flash forward and comfort Little Meng Dragon, he suddenly felt that the scene in front of him had changed again. Jiang Xiao took a deep breath and panted heavily while his chest heaved up and down violently. In front of him was an exquisite face that seemed to have merged with all the beauty in the world. Han Jiangxue looked at Jiang Xiao with a worried expression. She raised her palm and waved her slender fingers in front of Jiang Shao. After discovering that his eyes had regained focus, Han Jiangxue hurriedly held onto Jiang Zhao's shoulder and asked, "Are you all right? What happened? Why did you suddenly—" "No, I'm fine." Jiang Shao shook his head repeatedly and gestured for Han Jiangxue not to worry. However, he couldn't help but frown and explain, "I should have been hit by Meng Dragon's star technique. It should be Jiao Yang. Pick up the morning dream." Han Jiangxue asked, "Pick up the morning dream?" The name is a little strange. Jiang Shao nodded affirmatively and looked past Han Jiangxue's shoulder to look at Meng Dragon that was floating not far away. This star technique can create a real dream. In the dream, it will provide the dreamer with some images that might happen in the future. Han Jiangxue pursed her lips nervously and said, "Foresee the future, just like what you did in Central Street back then? What did you see?" Jiang Shao calmed himself down and said, "I saw a body that was even more majestic than Earth Dawn. However, Big Earth Dawn had 4 seasons, all kinds of forests, lakes, snowy mountains, deserts, and grasslands, but the giant's body is covered in scorched earth, full of cracks." Jiang Shao stared at Meng Dragon intently and added, "Besides, that giant seemed to be dead. I didn't sense any aura of life. In the beginning, I thought that there was a strange mountain in front of me that I couldn't see the end of." Han Jiangxue nodded thoughtfully. Being intelligent, she already had some conjectures in her heart. However, when that thought popped up in her mind, she felt that it was just wishful thinking. On the other hand, Jiang Shao looked at Meng Dragon with a burning gaze and said, "So, you guided the way for me. Or rather, your star technique guided the way for the two of us. You become my partner, right?" Little Meng Dragon twisted its body in midair, but it did not respond. Jiang Shao hesitated for a moment, and star power suddenly flowed in front of his chest. A chubby little boy that was burning with a white candle flame appeared in his hand. Its round body was like jelly that was quivering. Little Candle's pair of candle eyes burned quietly as it curiously observed its surroundings. Meng Dragon finally responded to the appearance of Little Meng Dragon. However, Meng Dragon didn't seem to be in a good mood. While it was creating the dream for Jiang Shao, it seemed to have also experienced the same dream. It had yet to get over the previous sad emotions. On the other hand, Jiang Shao opened his internal star map and decisively threw 100,000 skill points into Little Meng Dragon's star power realm. The skill points were reserved for times like this. Golden red candle flame leveled up. Mutated black and white diamond quality level 1. Golden red candle flame leveled up. Mutated black and white diamond quality level 2. Golden red candle flame leveled up. Mutated black and white diamond quality level 9. Golden red candle flame leveled up. Mutated black and white star quality level 0. In the internal star map, a line appeared below the image of Little Meng Dragon and pointed to an empty spot. Jiang Shao held Little Meng Dragon with both hands, lowered his head, and gently pressed his lips on its soft and supple cheeks. He said softly, "Come on, Little Meng Dragon. Let's light it up and go to the outside world to take a look." Little Meng Dragon tried its best to raise its head face, seemingly enjoying its master's kiss. It wriggled its body and let its supple skin touch Jiang Zhao's lips again. Oh, Little Meng Dragon, whose plot had succeeded, let out a cry of joy and swung its feet back and forth excitedly. It didn't care about the outside world or any grand goals. Its world was very simple and pure. Little Candle's carefree and innocent look made Jiang Shao laugh involuntarily. Not far away, Meng Long seemed to be infected by such a warm and interesting scene, and his mood improved a lot. Meng Long twisted its transparent body and slowly floated over with wisps of mist around it. Unsure if it was intentional or not, the path that Meng Long chose was rather interesting. It passed through Han Jiangxue's back and emerged from her chest before appearing in front of Jiang Shao. At this moment, Han Jiangxue's eyes suddenly became extremely empty. May this book end. It warmed the hearts of everyone who had accompanied the little toxic healer through the mountains and seas. Counting down to the end of the book. Treasure it as you read. Chapter 1294. In addition, the Weibo and Weixin accounts are both love of writing. After finishing this novel, when I have time, I'll take a look and write some other short stories. You're welcome to follow me. Update of 9 stars poison milk currently typing. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1295. With the help of the humming whale, Jiang Shao confirmed with Meng Long again and finally carried the black and white candle to Meng Long's head. Here, little candle, rely on it. Jiang Shao placed little candle's face on the vague outline of Meng Long's dragon head, and at the same time, exhorted it. Meng Long, you can't resist at all. Your level is too high. In fact, the existence of Meng Long had already exceeded Jiang Zhao's understanding of star beasts. One had to know that even gods like Hopkins and Gaia could only reach the pinnacle of star end in their lifetime. What was the corresponding level of star beasts in the star end stage of human star warriors? It was the star grade. Meng Long was 2 ranks higher than the star warriors who were at the peak of the human race. This wasn't a joke. Jiang Shao would not believe that such a creature had no background. Logically speaking, it should be a supreme existence in the Star Warriors world. Hence, although Meng Long was included in the Star Beast illustration of Star Warriors era, Jiang Shao could not really classify it as a Star Beast. At least, it was not a Star Beast that humans knew of. The more terrifying thing was that Meng Long was the star pet of the Scorched Earth Star Warrior outside. Among all of Jiang Zhao's star pets, the one closest to Meng Long was the Poo-Poo whale. At this moment, the Poo-Poo whale was at star grade level 9. It was almost equivalent to the peak of Star Warriors. Unfortunately, the Poo-Poo whale had been pretending to be dead in recent days. The battle between land and sea made the Poo-Poo whale feel conflicted. Even though Jiang Shao had kept it in the star map, he had not called it out to play for some time. There was no problem with the relationship between the two of them. Jiang Shao understood very well that the Poo-Poo whale needed time the most. It wanted to be alone. After all, the Poo-Poo whale joined Jiang Zhao's team halfway. Unlike the humming whale would not be disturbed by too many factors. There was only one person in its huge and deep eyes, Jiang Shao. If the Poo-Poo whale had continued to fight during this period of time, it might have already advanced to the Candle Moon grade. He had to choose the best from the best. However, such an overlord of the deep sea could not be compared to Meng Long in terms of rank. Jiang Shao knew that he definitely could not simply treat Meng Long as a star pet. It seemed that he should treat it more like a guide. Or, according to the description in Star Warriors, treat it as a dutiful guardian. At this moment, the guardian took the initiative to join Jiang Zhao's team. Of course, Jiang Shao was secretly speculating about what would happen in the future. In a sense, Jiang Shao should have embarked on a path of no return after taking Meng Long into his pocket. However, if you were given such a chance, would you absorb it? A creature that could create everything in the world wanted to be your companion and join your team. Would you do it? F***CK. It means the unknown. It means the responsibilities that may come along with it. No way. That? Are you even human? Star Warriors were synonymous with the pursuit of limits and power. At least among the Star Warriors, Jiang Shao didn't think that any Star Warrior would be able to resist such a temptation. Jiang Shao was a strong-willed person. He was a warrior and a real man. It was no exaggeration to say that he could resist all temptations in the world. Unless the temptation was a creation god star pet. I have to add another one. Unless the temptation was little Jiangxue, while he was deep in thought, he received a message from the internal star map. Fusion successful. 6/6, 6th dependent form, black and white candle dream. Damn, it smells so good. Jiang Shao couldn't help but stomp his feet in excitement. However, he was floating in the air, so he missed all his steps. In his line of sight, the little Meng Long, which was almost transparent and emitting wisps of white mist, was suddenly ignited. Of course, the white flames on Meng Long's body would not really hurt it. Not only would it not, but the little candle flame had also completely fused with the Dream Dragon's body. At this moment, The almost transparent outline of the dream dragon was rendered by the white candle flame, revealing the exquisite dragon head of the white candle flame. The mist that the dream dragon emitted was also burning with sparks. As its body twisted and turned in the air, the white candlelight sprinkled sparks. Sparkling like stars, it was extremely beautiful. Wow, it's so comfortable. Jiang Xiao opened his internal star map and looked under the picture of the black and white candle flame in the star pet section. A line appeared in the lower right corner, and a new companion appeared on the right side of the picture of the poo-poo whale, Meng Long. After the fusion was successful, Meng Long seemed to be much happier. Its body was burning with cold white candle flames, and its slender body circled around Jiang Xiao. This time it no longer sized Jiang Xiao up with a judgmental gaze. Instead, it stuck close to Jiang Xiao and wrapped itself around him. It was clearly a terrifying dragon, but it had forcibly turned into a snake. The black and white candle dream wrapped itself around Jiang Xiao's body and swam slowly. From time to time, it would brush Jiang Xiao's face with its whiskers that were filled with candle flames. Jiang Xiao scratched his face and stroked Meng Long's body with one hand before turning to look at Han Jiangxue. Before he finished speaking, Jiang Xiao stopped. In his line of sight, Han Jiangxue's eyes were red and her gaze was hollow. Tears flowed down uncontrollably and stained her face. During the short trip to the Dragon Cave, Jiang Xiao saw a different Han Jiangxue. He had never seen Han Jiangxue cry before, but he had already seen her twice today. It was enough to see how her emotions were fluctuating. What did she see? At this moment, Han Jiangxue looked the same as when Jiang Xiao was affected by the star technique of Twilight Dream. Clearly, she had been taken to another world by Meng Long's star technique, and it was the story that happened in the other world that made her behave like that. Jiang Xiao hurriedly flew forward, feeling a little helpless and unsure if he should disturb her. Surprisingly, the eccentric Meng Long, who had been playing around, also quietened down. It wrapped itself around Jiang Xiao's neck and turned into a flame scarf. Its 80-centimeter-long body wrapped itself around Jiang Xiao's neck, and its long dragon tail was placed on Jiang Xiao's back, burning all the way down. The exquisite flame dragon head was also placed on Jiang Xiao's chest. Jiang Xiao lowered his head and looked at the quiet Meng Long, only to discover that it turns out that you're the same as the sea-swallowing robe. You're also a functional star pet. One is a black cloak, while the other is a white candle scarf. Then, I'll separate little candle from you. Then I'll put on the candle cap, hat, scarf, coat. Is the three-piece set complete? TSK. How can the three-piece Atlantic Ocean set, which holds the Sea Soul lamp, wears the Sea Soul mask, and is a Sea Soul fish demon, compare to Jiang Xiao and the Andromeda constellation in the Arctic Ocean? How can the three-piece Arctic Ocean set, which has the chain spirit in its left hand, the spirit lock in its right hand, and the vengeful spirit in its body, compare to it? While he was secretly thinking about it, Han Jiangxue's eyes gradually became more focused. Jiang Xiao hurriedly snapped back to his senses and asked with concern, "What did you see? Are you all right?" Han Jiangxue's emotions fluctuated a little too much. In just one day, she seemed to have released all the emotions that she had been suppressing for the past few years. Jiang Xiao wasn't sure if she needed a shot of steadiness bell at this moment. Han Jiangxue bit her lips and looked at Jiang Xiao with a complicated gaze, seemingly a little aggrieved. All of a sudden, Han Jiangxue raised her palm. Jiang Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, but he did not dodge. Han Jiangxue's palm froze in midair, and she raised it high. However, she lowered it gently and patted Jiang Xiao's face. Instead of slapping him, it was more like a gentle caress. Jiang Xiao was speechless. Jiang Xiao vaguely saw a hint of joy in Han Jiangxue's complicated gaze. Her tear-stained face gradually blushed, and she seemed to be a little shy. She then retracted her hand that was stroking Jiang Xiao's face and retreated a few meters. She then lowered her eyes and seemed to be thinking about something. Jiang Xiao was speechless. Oh dear, has she gone crazy because of Shimeng Xiao? What exactly did she see? What's going to happen in the future? Jiang Xiao placed his hands behind his back and leaned forward slightly. He then raised his head and looked at Han Jiangxue inquisitively. What did you see? Han Jiangxue rubbed her face and remained expressionless. She did not respond. Jiang Xiao couldn't help but smack his lips in discomfort. Let me tell you, it's not good for your health if your emotions continue to fluctuate like this. Han Jiangxue stared at Jiang Xiao gloomily, as if she was looking at a criminal who didn't know that he was on the wanted list. After a while, she said softly, "Let's go to the outside world." Huh? Jiang Xiao blinked. The outside world? It seems that she has seen a lot of things. At the thought of this, Jiang Xiao was amused and said, "Okay, you've become a prophet now. Let me tell you, Menglong Star technique is to let the dreamer see everything that might happen. The focus is on the possibility. In other words, the future that is predicted might not be completely accurate." Hearing this, Han Jiangxue frowned slightly. After a long while, she nodded gently and said, "But it seems like something you would do." Jiang Xiao froze for a moment and frantically asked, "What did I do?" Her reaction just now was so strange. Jiang Zhao's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at Han Jiangxue expectantly. He then asked, "Did I do something to you?" Han Jiangxue was speechless. Jiang Xiao was filled with excitement. Although he had the intention but not the guts, he felt that it was good to think about it. "Wow, it feels great." Jiang HQ urged. "Hurry up and tell me." Han Jiangxue pursed her lips and reached out to gently pat the head of little Meng Long that was hanging on Jiang Zhao's chest. She then said, "Let's go." Stubborn Han had returned to the Jianghu again. Jiang Xiao smacked his lips and said helplessly, "Okay, let's go." Jiang Xiao then patted little Meng Long that was wrapped in a scarf and said, "Let's go. Are you going to open the space door, or should I flash out of this dimension? I'm actually very strong, too. I just need you to give me a spatial location." Wait a minute. If this is the star technique of the planet scorched star technique, or even the body of the planet scorched, I don't need a spatial location at all. I just need to break through the space dimension and flash out. Then, I'll naturally appear next to the planet scorched warrior. However, space star techniques were still relatively advanced techniques. Before Jiang Xiao was 100% sure of where he was, it would be best for him to play it safe. Since he had already come this far, he couldn't afford to be reckless. He had to keep in mind at all times, play it safe. We can win. Thank you, Little Hua, for the 50,000 yuan reward. Boss is so generous. There was still one more chapter to go. Chapter 1296. Jiang Xiao waited for a long time, but there was no response from little Meng Long. He couldn't help but reach out again and gently rub its head. "Hey, wake up. Get up." Smack. It would have been fine if he hadn't touched it. But with this slap, the dream dragon suddenly shattered into countless starlight and surged towards Jiang Zhao's star map. "What's going on? I didn't put you in the star map. How can you make decisions on your own? Damn it. Holy SH**T. Jiang Xiao cursed inwardly, but the sound of his cursing got even louder. The reason? It was naturally because of the waves of star power that surged towards him. Some star power didn't seem to be much on the surface, and they were like starlight that was extremely beautiful. However, in reality, each star power was comparable to all of Jiang Zhao's star power. Wretch. Only one star power that had been shattered into hundreds of starlight surged into Jiang Zhao's body, but it was enough to make Jiang Xiao vomit. One star power was equivalent to 10 bottles of star power. This medicine is way too strong, isn't it? It's too strong. Jiang Xiao immediately bent over and vomited. Han Jiangxue was shocked. Clearly, she did not see such a scene in the future. She had never imagined that taking back a star pet would cause such a huge scene. A star pet of the Jiaoyang rank is simply terrifying. How magnificent is this scene? The star power had clearly flowed into Jiang Zhao's body, but Han Jiangxue, who was standing at the side, had already been deprived of the right to breathe. Not to mention the gradual lack of oxygen. The surging and rich star power would be extremely beneficial to Han Jiangxue even if she ate some leftovers. Whoosh! Han Jiangxue involuntarily lit up her white flame star map, as if it was a physical reaction. Coincidentally, Jiang Zhao's chest also bloomed with the Star Warrior era star map. Jiang Zhao, who could not control himself, did not even have the time to adjust his star map. Fortunately, Jiang Zhao had already advanced to the end of Star Stage through the decoy and received a second star map enlightenment. The white flame star map in front of Han Jiangshue's chest was burning vigorously like a behemoth that devoured everything. It was plundering the surrounding condensed air and devouring the huge waves of air brought about by the small band of star power. Meanwhile, the Star Warrior era in front of Jiang Zhao's chest was flipping through the pages randomly. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Han Jiangxue slowly raised her head, and her eyes were filled with white flames. Her dark eyes were finally burning with white flames. Her eyes were like black and white candlelight, embedded in her emotionless and indifferent face, forming a frightening and strangely beautiful picture. Han Jiangxue was already out of breath, but she couldn't control herself. She sighed and exhaled the last breath in her body. In the dimly lit and spacious dragon cave, wherever her candlelight gaze could see, there were only white flames burning. Raging flames spread out, wreaking havoc in the surroundings. That aura seemed to want to burn everything in the world. Unfortunately, there was nothing for the flames to burn. Amidst the panic, Han Jiangxue did not completely lose her rationality. She could feel the energy in her body that was on the verge of exploding, as well as the desire and impulse to burn everything. Han Jiangxue didn't even dare to close her eyes because the white flames in her body were too horrifying. She vaguely felt that if she were to close her eyes forcefully, the white flames would burn her body into ashes without differentiating between friend and foe. Feeling helpless, she had no choice but to turn around and look into the distance, allowing the raging flames in her body to find a place to vent. At this moment, the dim dragon cave was completely lit up. There was nothing to burn, and that was probably the greatest fortune. The layers of white flames that were burning filled the sky and the distant space, forming white flame-shaped clouds. What shocked her was that there was nothing to burn. The white clouds of flames collided with each other and burned each other. Irritable. Really? Irritable. She was clearly a cold girl who had turned into a Star Warrior twice. Yet she was so irritable. The end of Star Stage. The second advancement of the Star Warrior. The talented Han Jiangxue had long been transformed by the Star Warrior era, and her star power realm and potential had been developed to the greatest extent. And now, a few months later, in this dragon cave, she actually broke through to the star end stage before Jiang Zhao by eating the leftovers. The two of them could be considered to be following each other closely. Han Jiangxue tried her best to float into the distance while letting the white flames fill the sky. At the same time, she distanced herself from the troublesome place and searched for air that she could breathe in. On the other hand, Jiang Zhao did not have much of a choice. One by one, the star power spots fused into Jiang Zhao's body, and under the infusion of the massive star power torrent, Jiang Zhao advanced directly. In wuxia and xinxia novels, there would always be things like blocked meridians, but for Jiang Zhao blocked? Without Jiao Yang's level of endurance, Jiang Zhao's body would have been crushed by the star power. Who would dare to block it? Even the second ring in the capital at 5:30 p.m. wouldn't be able to block the terrifying star power. Jiang Zhao, who was in a daze, was flipping through the pages of Star Warrior era in front of his chest. He couldn't help but worry that the book, which was already old, would turn into a mess by itself. Jiang Zhao yelled in his heart, "I only took back a Jiao Yang star pet. I didn't devour a Jiao Yang star pet. Do I have to?" In a daze, Jiang Zhao fell from the sky. It turned out that the sea-devouring robe that he was wearing had also been filled to the brim, and he had temporarily lost consciousness. The only thing that was spared was probably the humming whale floating in the distance above. With the ethereal cry of the whale, a small whirlpool appeared out of thin air and rotated under Jiang Zhao's feet. Jiang Zhao's body merged into the spinning whirlpool. Although he had stopped falling, Jiang Zhao, who was already dizzy, became even more dizzy. Star Power Upgrade. Star Warrior Stage, Level 1. A cough, 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 cough. Some people trained hard in solitude and found a flash of inspiration in solitude. After exhausting everything they had learned, they finally entered the Star Warrior stage. For example, the resentful Three Tails. There were some people who entered the Star End stage while they were still groaning. This world is really full of love. Mom, that's enough. It's really enough. Thank you, Mother Long. When Jiang Shao became a little more clear-headed, he immediately summoned Ao Dragon, Puff Whale, and Mewling Bear. Suck. Suck as hard as you can. We'll suck every day from now on. I'll summon Jiao Yangming Dragon again when I run out of star power and take it back again. Of course, there was another reason why Jiang Shao chose to summon the star pets in his body as soon as he woke up. It was because the few charging fortresses in his body were also full of power. Although they were far from comparable to the total amount of star power in Jiao Yangmenglong's body, summoning them would at least temporarily relieve Jiang Zhao's surging star power. That decision proved that Jiang Shao was slightly clear-headed because he did not summon Ao Dragon. As early as when Jiang Shao used Ao Dragon to destroy the Dragon Cave, he had already realized the seriousness of the problem. Hence, Jiang Shao was subconsciously very cautious about summoning the imprisoned dragon. If he were to summon Ao Dragon in this void, would the Dragon Cave be reopened? What choice would the Meng Dragon, which had just joined, make? Buzz, EWW. The Puff Whale liked such an environment very much, but the Mewling Bear was a disgrace to the national treasure. As soon as it came out, it became flustered. The sense of weightlessness caused by the rapid fall woke up the Mewling Bear, who was sleeping soundly. Its small black eyes widened and it waved its arms and legs wildly. It fell rapidly and finally sat on the back of the Puff Whale. Jiang Shao finally felt a little more comfortable. He closed his eyes and the whirlpool beside him disappeared. He then fell onto the soft back of the Puff Whale. Vaguely, he felt as if he had received something incredible. Black and white candle whale upgraded. Candle moon level, max. Condition met. Star pet, at max level. Skill points awarded, 80,000. After a full 10 minutes, Jiang Shao finally woke up and his brain started working again. Jiang Shao scratched his head in distress. Did I just receive a message? Jiang Shao hurriedly opened the internal star map. A few seconds later, his mouth was wide open. Fifth dependent form, black and white candle whale, max candle moon level. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. What's going on? I just got a Jiaoyang star pet. How come the Puff Whale has reached the max level when it has just advanced to the candle moon level? Has it reached the end of its growth? Jiang Shao couldn't help but rub his eyes. His small head was full of doubts. His basic skills, star power abundance, and Xia family swordsmanship were considered to be at the max level after they advanced to the star grade. There was no possibility of further improvement. The star grade was the 6th level. The max level of star pets was the 7th level. Candle moon? Were the highest levels of various things different? Would all the star pets be at the max level when they reach the candle moon level? Could there be no possibility of further improvement? The Puff Whale also gave Jiang Shao an achievement, star pet at the max level. That's not right. What about Jiaoyang Menglong? It had clearly been successfully relied on by Little Candle Flame. There's such a huge Jiaoyang level. Why didn't it achieve anything? Besides, why did Menglong break the rules of star pets and enter a higher level? It's confirmed. It's not a dragon. It's a monkey. It's beyond the 3 realms and not in the 5 elements. With such a body, Jiang Shao, who didn't treat Menglong as a star pet, was even more in awe of this god of creation. Little Jiang Shue. Where's little Jiang Shue? Jiang Shao suddenly realized something and hurriedly looked around. She's so big, and she's gone? Here. Han Jiangshue's voice sounded from behind. Jiang Shao finally heaved a sigh of relief and turned around to look into the distance, only to see Han Jiangshue floating over. Jiang Shao pursed his lips and tried his best to restrain his aura. He muttered to himself, "Is my aura that strong now? You don't even dare to open your eyes to look at me?" Han Jiangxue said calmly, "When you advanced, I advanced too." Jiang Shao was overjoyed. "Really? I was too focused on Yang. Vomiting just now. I didn't have time to pay attention to you." Han Jiangxue nodded slightly and said, "Yeah, I didn't open my eyes because I was worried that I would burn your star pet to death." Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. "Aren't you afraid of burning me to death? Am I that thick-skinned in your heart?" Jiang Shao flashed dozens of times on the spot and frantically consumed the star power in his body. He then carefully put away his star pet and switched his star map at the same time. He then put on a holy cross on his chest. "Well, I can brag, but I still have to cower." "Come on, open your eyes and let me take a look," Jiang Shao said. Of course, Han Jiangxue knew what Jiang Shao was doing. She stopped hesitating and slowly opened her beautiful eyes. His eyes, however, were a pair of normal eyes, without the slightest peculiarity. Jiang Shao asked with a doubtful expression, "There's no change in your eyes. Have you really advanced?" Han Jiangxue raised her hand and rubbed her eyes, only to realize that she was gradually getting used to everything. It seemed that the star map in her body had finally stopped erupting. She said softly, "Oh, it's good that you're fine." Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. "Are you kidding me?" Han Jiangxue suddenly raised her hand and pointed at Jiang Zhao's eyes. "You've changed." Jiang Shao froze and subconsciously said, "Impossible. I've never." Han Jiangxue blushed and glared at Jiang Shao. At this moment, Jiang Shao suddenly discovered that there was a white candle flame burning in her dark eyes. That white candle flame was very small. There was only a trace of it, and it disappeared in a flash. From the looks of it, she had really advanced, and she was gradually able to control this violent energy. Han Jiangxue said, "Your eyes have changed." Jiang Shao asked, "Huh?" He waved his hand, and a piece of bait appeared in front of Jiang Shao. The sea-devouring robe swung its tail out considerately and allowed Jiang Shao to stand on it, sizing him up carefully. "I'm looking at myself." At the next moment, Jiang Shao felt a little creeped out. Jiang Zhao's pupils were originally round and looked like normal human eyeballs. At this moment, they had turned into a pair of vertical pupils. The first time Jiang Shao saw this pair of eyes was when he was in the crack in space. They were obviously Menglong's eyes. Menglong's entire body was almost transparent, and there was only a faint outline. There was almost no physical body on its body. It only had a pair of vertical pupils that seemed to exist. At this moment, Menglong's only eye that had entered Jiang Zhao's body had fused into Jiang Zhao's eyes. Han Jiangxue asked, "Is there any change?" "There's no change. The perspective is the same, too." Jiang Shao frowned slightly and looked around. Han Jiangxue asked what? Jiang Zhao's vertical pupils suddenly constricted to the middle, almost turning into a vertical line. Jiang Shao hurriedly turned around to look. In Jiang Zhao's line of sight, a string of star power words slowly floated over from the distant horizon. In Jiang Zhao's vertical pupils, the strange star power words were more like moving windows. Behind the windows, there were blue skies and white clouds. Is this the direction that Menglong gave me? Is the outside world behind that window? Jiang Shao immediately opened the space door, and Jiang Shao walked in. Jiang Shao looked at Han Jiangxue and said, "You go in too. I'm not sure what the environment outside is like." The meaning behind Jiang Zhao's words was clear. He was probably the first person in the world to think that the big boss of stars was not strong enough. True de Chung thought. We're both younger brothers. Or younger sisters. Han Jiangxue shook her head gently and said, "No matter what happens, I'll face it with you." Looking at her determined expression, Jiang Shao pursed his lips and said, "Okay, peek." Chapter 1297. In the silent dragon cave, Jiang Shao held Han Jiangxue's hand and floated towards the mysterious runes that were moving horizontally. Of course, in Han Jiangxue's eyes, It was a horizontal, mysterious text. However, in Jiang Zhao's vertical pupil, there was a window. Jiang Zhao raised his palm and tried to reach out of the window. His palm only penetrated the window, mysterious text, and his palm was still in the dragon cave. He did not reach out of the window. Seems like we have to teleport. Jiang Zhao muttered softly and looked around, only to see a vertical window above his head. It's the same no matter where we go out, right? Jiang Zhao pursed his lips and turned to look at Han Jiangxue. Are you ready? Han Jiangxue said softly, yes. Let's go. Jiang Zhao no longer hesitated and released the star power threads. With a flash, he brought Han Jiangxue out of the window. Whoosh! At the next moment, the environment that they were in changed completely. The scorching sun above their heads made their bodies feel warm, which was the complete opposite of the dark environment in the dragon cave. Beneath their feet was a churning sea of clouds, which obstructed their line of sight as they looked down. Behind the two of them, there were waves of strong astral power aura. However, it was different from the star power that Jiang Zhao felt in the star technique picking up dreams. Although the waves of star power behind them were strong and dense, they were far from suffocating. Compared to the dream that Meng Long brought to Jiang Zhao previously, the intensity of the star power was on a completely different level. So, the prediction of picking up dreams was not entirely accurate. Or perhaps, when Meng Long sleepwalked with him previously, he had too many personal feelings for the scorched body, so the structure of the dream was half true and half false. Jiang Zhao flashed again and reappeared 100 meters away. The two of them stood above a churning sea of clouds. They quickly turned around, and what they saw was a gigantic eye socket. Well, this scene was exactly the same as the previous dream. It was the body of an ancient star warrior. There was no aura of life at all, as if he had been dead for a long time. However, perhaps because he was too powerful, even after such a long time, his cracked, scorched body was still emitting astral power. If he flashed here through the window, does that mean that the dragon cave is his brain? Jiang Zhao gently squeezed Han Jiangxue's palm and analyzed the situation at this moment. Han Jiangxue's palm struggled slightly. Jiang Zhao asked, huh? He looked at Han Jiangxue in bewilderment, wondering why she let go. After thinking about it, Jiang Zhao decided to let go. On the other hand, Han Jiangxue flew backwards and looked at Jiang Zhao with a hint of encouragement and blessings in her eyes. Jiang Zhao frowned. What do you mean? Girl, what exactly did you see in the vision of the future? Han Jiangxue flew backward for dozens of meters before slowly coming to a stop. Not only did she stop, but she also clasped her hands together and pressed them against her chin. She then closed her beautiful eyes and lowered her head slightly, as if she was praying for something. Before Jiang Zhao could finish speaking, a thick book suddenly appeared in front of his chest. Star Warrior Era. Jiang Zhao was dumbfounded. I didn't summon Star Warrior Era. This just now, Meng Long took the initiative to integrate into my internal star map. Now, my internal star map is operating on its own and opening up on its own. It's rebelling. They're all rebelling. While Jiang Zhao complained in his heart, a message suddenly appeared in his internal star map. Star power upgrade. Into stars level 2. Jiang Zhao's face stiffened. He had just entered the end of stars stage. How could he suddenly advance to end of stars level 2 in just a minute? While Jiang Zhao was feeling bewildered, another piece of information appeared in the internal star map. Star power upgrade. End of stars level 3. Jiang Zhao was dumbfounded. He hurriedly opened his internal star map and discovered that his star power level was indeed increasing, and it was increasing automatically. Wait a minute. Something's wrong. The star power level has increased, but Jiang Zhao's skill points have decreased by 200,000. Star power upgrade. End of stars level 4. Jiang Zhao watched helplessly as his skill points decreased by another 100,000. Damn it. Before breaking through the window of the dragon cave and entering this world, Jiang Zhao had painstakingly accumulated 114,2574 skill points. In just a few seconds, there were only about 840,000 left. Jiang Xiao was extremely distressed. The star power level could be improved through training, and Jiang Xiao had saved so many skill points for the sake of dealing with unexpected situations or improving the quality of his star techniques. He didn't do it for the sake of increasing his star power level. Star power upgrade. End of stars level 5. Jiang Xiao turned his head abruptly and looked at the huge and sunken eye socket. He stared at the scorched eyelids. Are you up to something? Star power upgrade. End of stars level 6. Star power upgrade. End of stars level 7. Those who transform me will live. Those who break me will advance. Those who resemble me will die. The information in the internal star map and the information on the 6th page of Star Warrior Era intertwined and filled Jiang Xiao's brain. Jiang Xiao covered his head with both hands. If it was just the information in the internal star map, it wouldn't be a big deal. The key was the information on the 6th page of Star Warrior Era. The sound was like the morning bell in the temple that made Jiang Xiao's head buzz. For some reason, when experiencing such a strange scene, Jiang Xiao was thinking about Han Jiangxue, who was behind him and praying with her hands clasped together. Star power upgrade. End of stars level 8. Those who transform me will live. Those who break me will advance. Jiang Xiao had a pained expression and his head buzzed because of the majestic and loud voice. His body flew forward uncontrollably. Who's controlling my body? Is the sea-devouring robe carrying me forward? Obviously not. It's so well-behaved, so it's the dream dragon in my body? Star power upgrade. End of stars level 9. Those who transform me will live. Jiang Xiao plunged into the deep eye socket of the ancient Star Warrior, and just when he placed his palm on the cracked, grayish-red eyelid, crack, there seemed to be a sound of something breaking. While in a daze, the information in the internal star map completely disappeared. Not only did it disappear, but his internal star map seemed to have shattered. That was Jiang Xiao's feeling, a very pure feeling. This time, it seemed to be different from the previous times when the internal star map was closed and adjusted. It was very likely that it was really broken and would never return. In his mind, there were only 4 words left. Those who transform me will live. Jiang Xiao's eyes widened in the 6th page of Star Warrior Era. In front of his chest emitted a shocking ray of light. In the page, the sentence body of sorrow floated out and imprinted on Jiang Xiao's body, just like the human anatomy on the previous pages. Those who transform me will live. It was also at this moment that Jiang Xiao's body kept growing bigger, and bigger again. Hiss. As his body continued to grow, the clothes on Jiang Xiao, who was wearing the body of sorrow, were also torn apart. He hurriedly took off the sea-devouring robe and floated towards Han Jiangxue. In the sky, there was a scorching hot sun. Above the sea of clouds, there was a young man who was growing rapidly and a young girl who was praying silently with her palms pressed together. And under this vast sea of clouds, along the scorched skin, 10,000 meters down, on the ground, there was a bustling city. In the bustling city, there were crowds and heavy traffic. However, in just a few seconds, the entire modern city suddenly fell into a strange stagnation. People raised their heads in a daze and looked at the sky in the distance. They had long gotten used to the pair of scorched legs. Everyone knew who the owner of the pair of legs was. The myths and legends about him were all about him. In fact, the owner of the pair of legs was 1/9 of the credit for the normal operation of the planet. Unfortunately, the owner of the pair of legs had already died in the middle of the previous century. People were just speculating about his death. After all, in the decades of evolution, the pair of legs that were full of beautiful scenery and various terrains eventually turned into scorched earth. Such an evolution also confirmed the people's conjectures. However, his death was unlike that of a normal human. He did not die immediately, but after decades. People also wanted to go up and take a look. They wanted to observe and greet this god up close, but there was always an inexplicable energy that prevented them from getting close to the body. The body was very clear from afar. The closer they looked, the more blurry it became. It was extremely magical and strange. The star power that this god provided to the mainland was also getting thinner and thinner. People could clearly feel all of this, but there was nothing they could do. At this moment, is the body of this god finally going to shatter? Is he finally going to die? Can he no longer provide any energy to this world? On the street, a young man holding a briefcase sighed deeply. He was like an office worker who was running around for a living. He should have been in a hurry, but he stopped and looked up at the distant sky. The pair of scorched feet was gradually breaking. The young man bent down and reached out his hand to rub the soft fur of the ghost fox beside him. He said, "Let's move." Without the support of the energy emitted by the 9 bodies, it will be very difficult for you to survive here. I have the ability, and I can find a job anywhere. Let's go to the southwest. At least the 8 bodies are still alive, and there are no signs of decay. Woo, the snow-white ghost fox whimpered softly. It looked up at the pair of feet that were gradually breaking, and hot tears flowed down its cheeks. To humans, it might feel lost, but to the ghost fox, it was more like the fall of a creator. In the middle of the street, the husband and wife in the driver's seat and passenger's seat got out of the car. The husband and wife placed their palms on the car door and looked up at the scene that looked like the end of the world. The father's Adam's apple moved. Finally, the mother could not help but cover her mouth with one hand, and her eyes widened. The next second, she hurriedly turned her head and looked through the window at her carefree son in the back seat. At this time, her child was playing happily with little fire clay. The 2 little guys were completely unaware of the drastic changes in this world. The mother's heart was filled with a trace of sorrow. If the 9 bodies died and there was no longer any energy supply, then her son's playmate would probably. Chapter 1298. The mother looked at the child playing in the back seat of the car, her heart full of worry. Not only her son's playmates, but even the structure of the entire society would encounter a huge change. In this country, although there was the existence of the 8th body, that body was too far away from here. It was in the southwest of the country, in the Great Tibet, in the stagnant city. All kinds of people, accompanied by all kinds of star beasts, stopped and looked up, their hearts heavy as they looked at the scene above. "Hello, everyone. I am now in Chang'an City." A host in a suit raised his hand slightly, gesturing to the guy carrying the camera. Not far in front of him stood an iron tree demon. The iron tree demon's body extended branches, firmly binding and fixing the camera, moved it up, and pointed the camera at the host. The host continued, "Let me tell you a very unfortunate news. The 9 bodies located in the land of Qin Dynasty, above Chang'an City, since the phenomenon occurred in the middle of the last century, after decades of decline, it has finally reached the end of its life. Without the energy provided by the 9 bodies, with the land of Qin as the center, more than half of Huaxia's territory radiated out, including the Outer Mongolia Empire, the central and eastern Siberia regions of the Russian Federation, as well as countries in the south of the peninsula, the north of the peninsula, Japan, and so on. I am afraid there will be huge social changes. The social structure formed for thousands of years, the way people live, will also suffer unprecedented impact. I am afraid the center of Huaxia will move to the Great Tibet in the southwest region. After all, the 8th body of Great Tibet has not shown signs of decline. But no matter what, we are witnessing history, witnessing the fall of an ancient god. His body is breaking, and he is disappearing from our lives." "Huh?" The host was stunned for a moment, hurriedly raised his hand, motioning for the iron tree demon to move the camera up. "Fool, where are you? Where is your work? Why did you put the camera down?" This iron tree demon was specially hired from the Guizhou province. It was a stable group of people carrying the camera. The 2 of them had been partners for a full 6 years. The iron tree demon had always been conscientious. It had never dropped the ball. Why today? What is that? A series of exclamations caused the city, which had fallen into a state of stagnation, to almost boil over. The host hurriedly turned around and looked up at the sky. Unknowingly, A brand new foot that was filled with boundless vitality and covered the lush forest was slowly extending downwards. Opposite the newborn foot was the scorched foot on the other side that was slowly crumbling. The host's pupils constricted slightly as he asked in a trembling voice, "What? What happened?" At the same time, 10,000 meters up in the sky, above the layers of clouds, Han Jiangxue, who had her head lowered and was praying silently, suddenly opened her eyes. However, he did not look at Jiang Zhao's massive body in front of him. Instead, he looked to the side. In midair, there was a familiar yet unfamiliar figure. Wu Huaxing. Wu Huaxing smiled at Han Jiangxue and nodded slightly. Even though Han Jiangxue saw Wu Huaxing in the image of the future, she was still in disbelief when he really appeared in front of her. If this guy could break through the space-time dimension, why would her parents leave her? Or rather, the departure of her parents was caused by Wu Huaxing's cooperation with a certain someone. Wu Huaxing joined her parents' team with a conspiracy in mind. Sensing the hostility in Han Jiangxue's eyes, Wu Huaxing seemed to have understood a lot of things. The person hidden in 702 smiled amiably. "I know you're a little displeased with me." Wu Huaxing smiled and gestured at Jiang Zhao's body that was growing behind him. He continued, "However, this child is one of the chosen heirs. All the chosen heirs need a unique environment to grow up in. The existence of Han Cheng and Jiang Hongye will not only give this child a way out, but they will also guide him in the direction of his life. That's not what we want to see. What we want to see is the process of his self-struggle and the free development of humanity and character under certain conditions." Han Jiangxue looked at Wu Huaxing coldly. Han Jiangxue did not want to understand the plan of their level. She only knew that her family had left her for a long, long time. Wu Huaxing no longer looked at Han Jiangxue and instead stared at the distant sky. He said, "You guys shouldn't have come here." At the next moment, a voice floated over. "Tens of thousands of years ago, our home was destroyed. The 9 of us migrated here and transformed this planet. We also shaped this new world together. The 9 of us are people of the same era. If one of us gradually declines and eventually dies, it means that the other 8 will face the same fate. Maybe it won't be long before we choose our heirs in the same way. I have to have a chat with this new heir." Wu Huaxing's face turned sullen, and he said, "Leave." Another voice sounded from the sea of clouds. "It seems that your vitality is still very strong. You can still hold on for tens of thousands of years." Han Jiangxue turned her head to look, only to see a white-haired granny and a middle-aged man with a solemn expression emerging from the sea of clouds. Above the clouds, Jiang Shao had no idea about the conversation between Wu Huaxing and the 2 mysterious people. At this moment, Jiang Shao was frantically expanding, or rather, devouring the scorched body in front of him. Inheritance. Inheritance in the true sense of the word. Well, the kind that didn't have inheritance tax. The huge bodies of the scorched earth martialists formed a world of their own. This world was the Star Warriors' world that gave birth to Jiang Shao, Han Jiangxue, and the others. At this moment, the declining scorched body finally found a new heir after many rounds of selection. It handed its last energy and the entire world in its body to Jiang Shao. It was also at this moment that Jiang Shao, who had the entire world, felt what it meant to do whatever he wanted. The 7th page of Star Warriors era in his body was finally flipped open. A series of information surged into Jiang Zhao's brain. His body became a world of its own, the so-called Earth. Space enveloped the star technique and turned it into the so-called mutated sphere. Meng Long, as a companion of the same level created by the Scorched Planet Warrior, was the continuation of the will of the Scorched Planet Warrior and was also the last gift he left for Jiang Shao. The existence of Meng Long could create countless dimensional spaces in Jiang Zhao's body. The vast and complicated knowledge on the 7th page made Jiang Shao completely immersed in it and unable to extricate himself. He couldn't care less about his surroundings at all. The relationship between his body and his own world, the relationship between Earth and the mutated sphere, the relationship between Meng Long and the projection, the relationship between the upper and lower dimensions. After an unknown period of time, the broken, scorched body finally turned into ashes, shattered, and dissipated in the air. Jiang Shao, as a brand new, massive body, stood proudly in the sky at a height of 10,000 meters. The magnificent clouds were in front of his chest. Under the clouds was his vibrant body, which was very similar to Earth Dawn. His skin was covered by forests, grasslands, snowy mountains, waterfalls, all sorts of terrains. Above the clouds, Jiang Zhao's massive eyes were tightly shut. His attention was not on that place at all, but on the world in his body. In the world in Jiang Zhao's body, the battle between the land and the ocean was still ongoing. With the protection of Earth Dawn, Huaxia could still hold on. However, the other countries, especially the ocean countries, could be said to be in a state of war and suffering everywhere. Since that's the case, since I have this ability, I can reshape the order of this world and let it return to its original state. In the next second, location, in the world in Jiang Zhao's body, Sima Kingdom. Prince Bino led the army and resisted the Arctic Ocean Andromeda clan that came from afar. These female giants were wrapped in chains and had short brown curly hair scattered in front of their foreheads. They were swinging the chains around and conquering the land step by step. Swoosh, a huge door to a different dimension slowly opened in the sky. The chaotic battlefield by the sea suddenly fell into a standstill, as if the entire world had stopped. On the beach where blood flowed like a river and human corpses were everywhere, the people raised their heads and looked at the massive dimensional space door that covered the sky. It was as if the sky had leaked. Countless of Andromeda constellation that had landed on the ground shouted out in panic. Gusts of violent winds swept across. Waves surged to the sky, sweeping all of Andromeda constellation up into the sky and into the gigantic space door. All of a sudden, the sea and the sky were connected by countless waterspouts. Prince Bino looked at this scene in a daze and couldn't help but wipe his blood-stained eyes. What happened? God's intervention? Jesus came to Earth? That was only the situation that happened in the southern coast of the Sima Kingdom. In fact, the same thing happened on Earth, in the coastal areas of the various continents. Huge dimensional space doors opened in the sky, and countless star beasts of the ocean faction were swept into the sky. In the seas of the various oceans, huge dimensional space doors slowly opened in the deep and shallow seas. Under the surging waves, the star beasts of the ocean faction were sent into the dimensional space door one after another. Where did the star beasts of the ocean faction go? The answer was they had all entered Jiang Zhao's calamity world. As soon as the strange phenomenon occurred on the planet, Xia Yin received a call from Second Last. After taking the phone from her subordinate, Xia Yin said, "Madam." On the other end of the line, Second Last said in a hoarse voice, "Pass the phone to Jiang Shao." Xia Yin hurriedly flashed and arrived at the foot of Dadi Shao, who was standing on the southeast coast of Ludong. She then flashed again and leaped thousands of meters away. She then stood on Dadi Zhao's nose and exclaimed, "Hey, Jiang Shao, come and see me in your first form." Okay. As soon as she said that, the Dadi star map, decoy Jiang Shao, appeared behind Xia Yin. Second Last is looking for you. I reckon it has something to do with a global phenomenon. Xia Yin hurriedly handed the phone over. Decoy Jiang Shao grabbed the phone and said, "I did it. I'm reshaping the order of this world." Xia Yin widened her eyes and opened her mouth slightly, unable to say anything for a long time. What do you mean by reshaping the order of this world? That torn sky, that huge spatial door that stretched as far as the eye could see. Were you the one who created it? Xia Yin's heart was in turmoil, and she was at a loss for words. Second Last was the same. She couldn't utter a single word. Jiang Zhao's goal was already clear. From this moment onwards, his calamity world was the abnormal ball. His body was the earth. Decoy Jiang Shao continued, "Give me 3 days, and I'll return you a world that was 3 years ago." A normal Star Warriors world that you're familiar with, one that has the upper and lower dimensions and the holy ground. Second Last was dumbfounded. Chapter 1299. I recommend the 9-Star Gate. a platinum new book with guaranteed quality. Those who are interested can take a look. 3 days later, in Jiang Zhao's Star Warrior world, order was restored. The Marine Army was sent to Jiang Zhao's Calamity Shadow world. Or rather, they were sent to the so-called alien sphere. With Jiang Zhao's intervention, the war between land and sea ushered in the final outcome. The land side, which belonged to the human camp, also learned a lesson from the counterattack of the Marine Army. In fact, not only the Marine Army, but also the Star Beasts and the Tinder Cities of China were all sent to the alien sphere. Under such a level of natural disaster, no one could stop this scene from happening. On the third day, at 8 a.m. Beijing time, the first dimensional space, the Inferno Tribunal, suddenly opened in the suburbs of Beijing. Humans seemed to have realized that the Star Warrior world was returning. The dimensional spaces around the world opened one after another, and low-ranked creatures that had been weakened walked out of them. The people of the world finally understood that the Star Warrior world of the past had really returned. At the same time, Jiang Xiao, who was standing in the sky above the main world, slowly opened his eyes. Wu Huaxing. Jiang Xiao was stunned the moment he opened his eyes. Did I open my eyes wrongly? I'm still looking at the Star Warrior world in my body? No, little Jiang Xue is still floating beside Wu Huaxing. Oh my God, this girl hasn't had a drop of water for 3 whole days, has she? However, Jiang Xiao was overthinking. Han Jiangxue was living a comfortable life. She was also someone who carried a space with her and had everything she wanted. Of course, she couldn't ignore her concern for Jiang Xiao because of that. After all, she really stayed by Jiang Zhao's side for 3 days and 3 nights. Wu Huaxing smiled and waved at Jiang Zhao's huge eye socket. Transform your real body. Jiang Xiao asked, Wu Huaxing said, I'm not asking you to summon bait, but to transform your real body from this huge body. For the specific operation method, refer to when you were in the second form of the Earth star map and transform into the first form. Jiang Xiao frowned slightly and thought about it for a while. With a thought, a normal-sized Jiang Xiao appeared out of thin air. Jiang Xiao looked at his palm and clenched it excitedly. Not bad. I thought I'd be floating here forever. Wu Huaxing smiled and did not say anything. In a flash, Jiang Xiao stood in front of Han Jiangxue and looked at Wu Huaxing. How did you break through the space dimension too? Wu Huaxing shrugged and said, in fact, I also have an identical body, just like you. Wu Huaxing then pointed at Jiang Zhao's magnificent body at the side. Jiang Xiao was dumbfounded. Wu Huaxing's state was obviously different from when they met previously. He was more subtle and expressive, and Jiang Xiao could tell that he was genuinely happy for Jiang Xiao. Wu Huaxing said, World Warrior Wu Wu is his world. It was shaped by 9 special people. The guy you inherited is one of them, and I am also one of them. Jiang Xiao blinked and said, You guys created a planet together? However, Wu Huaxing shook his head and said, No, the homeland that our race lived in was destroyed because of the chaos of war. The few of us who survived wandered through the universe and finally chose to settle down here and live. When we first came here, this planet was barren, but we didn't expect it to gradually produce a civilization under our influence. Jiang Xiao pursed his lips and wanted to say something, but Wu Huaxing said, My body is in the Great Treasury. Jiang Xiao said, The Great Treasury. Yes. Wu Huaxing nodded slightly. There are 9 of us and 9 bodies standing in the sky above the various continents. Those are our respective habitats, but we didn't expect to benefit the species on this planet. Although you're the successor, you've become one of us now. Jiang Xiao smacked his lips with a pained expression and said, You mean there are 7 people like us? Wu Huaxing snorted and said, Yes, 2 came the day before yesterday, but I chased them away. Now that you've stabilized, you can meet them. One of them is probably dying, and she has many questions to ask you. Jiang Xiao sighed. What a pity. Wu Huaxing sighed deeply and said, We can only use inheritance to continue the race. We've worked so hard for so long, but we can't make humans evolve into our people. You're so young, and you have a long life. Maybe one day, you'll be able to do it? Who knows? Jiang Shao suddenly said. Have you never thought about reproducing? Wu Huaxing took a deep breath and said, He's given you all the knowledge you need, including abilities. The 9-star eyes is one of his abilities. If you want to see the story of the past, or even trace back to our original home, you can use the 9-star eyes to search. Look at the damage that battle has brought to our homeland, to our remaining clansmen, the damage it has brought. Feeling the tense atmosphere, Wu Huaxing smiled and changed the topic. He said, Hee, kid, you're really good at keeping secrets. In human terms, you're very secretive. Jiang Shao was confused and asked, What do you mean? Wu Huaxing said, You're not from the Star Warrior world. Jiang Zhao's breathing paused slightly. Wu Huaxing looked at Jiang Shao with a playful expression. Actually, you're from the world in my body. Jiang Shao opened his mouth wide and said, What do you mean by you? Wu Huaxing chuckled and said, This planet's scorched warrior came to me before he died and asked for my help. He would choose 2 people from the Star Warrior world in his body as candidates. He also hoped that I could choose a person of good quality as one of the candidates. In other words, I brought you into his Star Warrior world. Jiang Shao looked at Wu Huaxing in a daze and said, Then, why isn't there any star power in the world in your body? Wu Huaxing nodded and said, Everyone works hard in different ways. They're all exploring the path of the continuation of their race. I'm trying one of them. In an environment without the concept of Star Warrior world, the human world in my body will be more focused on human technology. Actually, I really want to witness the level of technology that humans will develop through normal reproduction. I want to see if we can use their method to create our people. Every day, I'm witnessing history. It's very interesting. Jiang Shao suddenly said, There are only 2 of me and Hopkins. Where's the other candidate? Wu Huaxing said, Dead. 40 years ago, he died in the alien ball. Jiang Shao was speechless. How could you die with the internal star map? How tragic would that be? Wu Huaxing suddenly added, To be exact, he died in the hands of Hopkins. Jiang Shao was speechless. Has Hopkins been lying to Jiang Shao all along? He kept telling Jiang Shao that he had finally found his own kind after being alone for so long. But in fact, Hopkins had already found his own kind, and he even killed him personally. Damn it. For a moment, Jiang Shao had goosebumps all over his body. Wu Huaxing ignored the shocked Jiang Shao and gestured to Han Jiangxue. Her parents, including her younger brother, are now living in this world. Wu Huaxing then pointed at the sea of clouds below. It was obvious what he meant. The Han family had been brought there. Wu Huaxing said, Given how much you care about Han Jiangxue, you'll definitely meet her parents. As someone who watched you grow up, I know what your character is like. I'm not worried that you'll do anything to these people. However, you'd better prepare what you're going to say. Before Jiang Shao could snap out his daze, he heard another muffled thunder. The Han family couple and Jiang Xiaopi are all right? Are they all alive and well? Wu Huaxing smiled faintly, seemingly having not been so happy in a long time. He said, Okay, let's end our conversation here. I've already told Han Jiangxue where her parents live. I'll go back to the treasury first. In the future, if my body collapses one day and we still can't find another way to continue the race, I'm afraid I'll choose a successor in this way too. When that time comes, remember to help me choose a good member of the clan. Jiang Shao frantically said, Don't go. Play a little longer. Why don't you not wait for thousands of years? Just commit suicide now. I think Han Jiangxue would be a good successor. Wu Huaxing was dumbfounded. Jiang Shao chuckled. Wu Huaxing left without even looking back. Jiang Shao and Han Jiangxue were the only ones left above the sea of clouds. On the other hand, Han Jiangxue was staring at Jiang Shao gloomily. Jiang Shao smiled awkwardly and said, Do you know why I did that? Han Jiangxue asked all of a sudden. Jiang Shao nodded. Which action? Of course, it was the action of raising her hand and then gently putting it down. Jiang Shao said, Sorry, there are some things that I dare not reveal. Han Jiangxue shook her head gently and said, You don't have to apologize. You don't have the right to choose. You were forcibly brought to the Star Warriors world. Besides, after so many years, your attitude towards me, your friends, and your comrades has already made it clear. Not only do you not need to apologize, but everyone in that world should also thank you. In particular, those who live around, you should be grateful for your existence. Jiang Shao said, Okay. Han Jiangxue said, That's why you asked us to call you Jiang Shao, because that's your real name. Okay. Jiang Shao scratched his head awkwardly. Han Jiangxue slowly drifted over and reached out to touch Jiang Zhao's face gently. She murmured, I should have known that he wouldn't suddenly become so good. Jiang Shao closed his eyes, tilted his head slightly, and rubbed his face against her soft palm. There was silence above the sea of clouds. After some time, Han Jiangxue said softly, Let's go home. Oh, Chang'an City, main world under the sea of clouds. In an ordinary house, a family of 3 was sitting in the living room. The father and son were drinking tea quietly, while the mother was twiddling her fingers nervously, seemingly in a daze. The family of 3 was obviously waiting for someone. Seems like they've already received the notice. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking on the door suddenly sounded. The couple's bodies stiffened slightly, but the young man suddenly jumped up and said, Are they here? The couple looked at each other and stood up. As for the young man, he had already run out. With one hand on the doorknob, he pushed the door open. All of a sudden, the 3 of them froze. Even though most of the people present had powerful senses, they all knew who was standing on the other side of the door, but, however, when they really saw each other, they were still a little shocked. The way they stared at each other was rather comical. You. Jiang Xiaopi pointed at Jiang Shao and stammered for a long time before saying, You're really awesome. You're my idol. Damn it. In the beginning, Wu Huaxing said that I didn't deserve to have an internal star map, and I wasn't happy about it. Later on, I really gave in to him. I go to class, and you practice swordsmanship in the tragic Night Mountain. I sleep, and you practice swordsmanship in the tragic Night Mountain. My semester has already ended, and it's summer break, yet you're still practicing swordsmanship in the tragic Night Mountain. Are you masochistic? What a beautiful Chinese. Jiang Shao looked at Jiang Xiaopi with a dumbfounded expression. He initially thought that he would see his own body. After all, his soul had transmigrated. Wouldn't that mean swapping bodies? What happened in the end? Jiang Xiaopi was still in his own body. In other words, Jiang Xiaopi and Jiang Xiaopi were identical twins at this moment. Han Jiangxue's agitated heart sank a little when she saw the look in Jiang Xiaopi's eyes. She sighed softly, and a sense of familiarity surged in her heart. Indeed, this is the real younger brother. It's too easy to tell them apart. Reuniting should have been a joyous occasion, but when she saw his face, especially his gaze and his state, Han Jiangxue suddenly felt infuriated. Her youth had returned. This world was just so wonderful. When you don't know anything, you'll be extremely confused. However, when you know the truth, you'll suddenly realize that it's so easy to tell Jiang Xiaopi and Jiang Xiaopi apart. Jiang Shao looked at Jiang Xiaopi in a daze and thought, Is that scorched earth star warrior so considerate? Not only did he send you to your parents to grow up under their protection, he even created a body for you. Here's the problem. Where's my body? Where's the body in Wu Huaxing's world before my soul transmigrated? Is it dead? Damn it, I have to talk to Wu Huaxing about it. While thinking about it, Jiang Shao felt someone pouncing towards him. He subconsciously took a step to the side, only to see a middle-aged woman pouncing into Han Jiangxue's arms. Jiangxue, you've grown up. Great, you've grown up. My daughter, I've been watching you go through fire and water every day. Don't you know how worried I've been? Han Jiangxue, even though she had personally experienced such a scene when she was picking up her star technique, she was still overwhelmed with emotions when she experienced it for the second time. Han Jiangxue lowered her head slightly and looked at the beautiful, short-haired, middle-aged woman in her arms. Han Jiangxue hugged her mother's body tightly and murmured softly, Mom. She had been waiting for the word Mom for far too long. Jiang Shao couldn't help but make eye contact with the middle-aged man in the room. His father, Han Chung smiled at Jiang Shao and said, "We know everything. You don't have to say anything. After all, you're a victim just like us. In addition, with Huaxing's help, we also saw what you did in the Star Warriors world. We've been paying attention to your news all the time. You've taken good care of Jiang Shue. Thank you very much." "Yes, yes." The middle-aged woman in Han Jiangshue's arms suddenly said with tears in her eyes. She raised her head and looked at Jiang Shao in amazement. "When I picked Xiaopi up from the trash can, I wanted to groom her into a perfect child husband who would take good care of her and protect her when she grows up." "You're really," Han Chung yelled sternly with a stern expression. "Hongya." After all, it was a god who was standing at their doorstep. They had to show respect. Besides, the relationship between the couple and Jiang Shao was obviously not in sync. Han Chung was very restrained, but Jiang Hongye was overly agitated. The Han couple had been paying attention to the news of Han Jiangxue and Jiang Shao through Wu Huaxing in the main world. In fact, they could even see the struggles of the two children through Wu Huaxing. It was no exaggeration to say that the two of them had grown up under the watch of the Han couple. However, Jiang Shao was different. It was his first time meeting the Han couple. How could their relationship be in sync? Jiang Shao blinked and looked at Jiang Hongye, whose eyes were red and full of admiration, and asked, "Child husband?" Jiang Hongye smiled apologetically. In her excitement, she blurted out without thinking. She wanted to apologize and explain herself. Before Jiang Hongye could finish, Jiang Shao grabbed her hand and said, "Mom." Jiang Hongye was speechless. Han Chung was speechless. Han Jiangshue's face was flushed, and she glared at Jiang Shao fiercely before slapping his hand away. She then walked into the house with her mother, Jiang Hongye. Han Qing also stepped aside and invited, "Come in and have a cup of tea." "Oh!" Jiang Shao strode in. At the side, Jiang Xiaopi leaned over and muttered, "Hey, I say, what exactly do you like about her?" Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. Han Chung hollered again, "Jiang Xiaopi." Jiang Shao scratched his head and looked at his brother-in-law in front of him, after which a word popped up in his mind. Jiang Shao slapped Jiang Xiaopi on the shoulder and turned to look at Han Chung. "Shall I help you train him?" "No, I'm not doing it. I know how self-torturing you lunatics are." Before Jiang Xiaopi could finish his sentence, he was shrouded by a ray of blessing. Jiang Xiaopi's head went blank, and he let out a strange moan. His body collapsed onto the ground like a puddle of mud. In the living room far away, Han Jiangxue turned a deaf ear to the scene. However, she seemed to have heard her mother say something as she blushed and turned to look at Jiang Shao. She then hurriedly averted her gaze. Chapter 1300. 3 years later, in the Star Warriors University of Star Warriors World. In a teacher's office, the decoy, Jiang Shao, was sitting in front of a computer desk, staring at the computer screen in front of him while typing furiously on the keyboard and repeatedly revising his graduation thesis. At this moment, Jiang Shao had already taken back all the decoy, and there were only 2 of them left in the world. One of them was Fang Xingyun, student at the Star Warriors University in Beijing. After 3 years of continuously publishing papers and researching star techniques, star beasts, and star techniques, he and Fang Xingyun had already become renowned researchers around the world. Of course, Jiang Shao. He's the god of creation. How can he not research thoroughly? It was hard to say. There were too many secrets in the Star Warriors world, and the martial artists of Planet Scorched had left Jiang Shao a lot of legacies that Jiang Shao wanted to understand and study. In fact, in the process of continuously communicating with the world's scholars, Jiang Shao had also delved deeper into the Star Warriors world. He still remembered the teachings that the Scorched Earth martialist had taught him. At present, Jiang Shao was still in the state of the one who transforms me. As for when he would be able to the one who transforms me, he would have to study his own abilities and the Star Warriors world more deeply. Jiang Shao was most unwilling to walk down the same path as the martial artists of Planet Scorched. No matter what, he couldn't go to the point of the one who transforms me, right? Jiang Shao, who had a goal to strive for, was, of course, more willing to interact with the top researchers, scholars, and mentors in the Star Warriors world. By publishing Star Studies papers and discussing topics, he could get the world to help him understand the magical world of Star Studies. The decoy, Jiang Xiao, was about to become Fang Xingyun's Ph.D. student. At this moment, Fang Xingyun's status had also risen, and her career had also advanced rapidly. She, who only had one master's student under her tutelage, had also obtained the qualifications to teach Ph.D. students in the year Jiang Xiao graduated. In the Star Warriors world, there was another decoy, Jiang Xiao, who was not revealed to the public. The decoy, Jiang Xiao, had changed his appearance and was recruited by Second Last into the Star Warriors army to become her guard. Well, Jiang Xiao, the bait, was more like a sparring partner. Whenever Second Last wanted to fight or vent her anger, she would look for the bait, Jiang Xiao. Through repeated training, Jiang Xiao's archery skills, dagger skills, and boxing skills were constantly improving. The previous internal star map was already broken, but Jiang Xiao now had the ability to create his own internal star map. However, Jiang Xiao also discovered a problem. Previously, the upper limit of the battle techniques in the internal star map was actually the upper limit of the Scorched Earth Warriors. Theoretically speaking, there was no end to learning. At least in terms of combat techniques, the Star Grade was definitely not the end. Now, the supreme controller of the Star Warriors world had been replaced by Jiang Xiao. If you were to give the internal star map to someone else, the internal star map will be based on Jiang Xiao's criteria for judging combat skills. In that case, Jiang Xiao's gold quality punches and kicks will be capped. How could that work? Without the internal star map of the Scorched Earth Warriors, Jiang Xiao would have to work hard to explore the high points of his combat techniques. However, it didn't matter. He had a long life, and he didn't think that he was inferior to anyone. However, the internal star map that he created now was a little embarrassing. For example, if he were to give the internal star map to Second Last now, and she discovered that her punches and kicks had been capped as soon as she activated it, her technique level has been maxed out. Isn't this a joke? The inheritance of the Scorched Earth Warriors was really strange. It gave Jiang Xiao a large amount of knowledge and energy, but there was still a large part that Jiang Xiao had to explore and create on his own. Perhaps this is the so-called the one who breaks through me, right? Jiang Xiao had to break through his original shackles from various angles and levels. He had to find a path that belonged to him. Apart from the two baits, one in the open and the other in the dark, there were no other baits. In the past, Jiang Xiao, who was the deputy commander of the Star Warriors Army of China, retired honorably under the special approval of the commander-in-chief of the three armies. On the surface, he also joined the Star Warriors University in the capital for further studies. In other words, under Fang Xingyun's command, the bait Jiang Xiao, who was about to study for a Ph.D., was the only Jiang Xiao in the world. Jiang Xiao had too many doubts about this world. What did he know about the Star Warriors world? He was just a god of creation, dog-head. As for the main Jiang Xiao, in the Disaster Shadow world, Alien Sphere, in the Stone Villa area, Jiang Xiao was by the lake in the forest. The scene that he had once imagined had become a reality. He was lying on the grass by the lake, resting his head on the furry and rounding bear. At the side, the black and white candle flames were playing happily. In a huge lake, two large fish were swimming and playing in the deep lake. The sea-devouring robe floated on the surface of the lake, and on the roof of the three-story stone villa, Ao long coiled its body and slept soundly. The blue sky was filled with white clouds, birds were chirping, and flowers were fragrant. The forest by the lake was quiet. As an alien sphere, the Disaster Shadow world would naturally be projected into the lower dimensional space. In the past, it was uncontrollable, but now, Jiang Xiao, who had Meng Long, could control the area where the dimensional space was projected. At the very least, the villa area he was in would not be projected into any dimensional space on Earth. This is good. Let's make it out, shall we? Jiang Xiao rested his head on the sleeping bear, while holding a pen and a notebook in his hand and continuously drawing on it. Mission accomplished. Here, look, what do you think of this? Jiang Shao lit up the drawing and waved it at Meng Long. Meng Long floated beside Jiang Shao and tilted his head curiously, looking at the strange fellow that Jiang Shao had drawn. It was a puppy, a small husky. It was enough to show how lacking Jiang Zhao's imagination was. Jiang Shao said excitedly, "Let me think, what star technique should I give it? First technique, more movement, brass quality, passive technique. Apart from sleeping, it will never be idle and will always be in a commotion. Second technique, home, demolition. It was a brass-grade passive skill. Everything he looked at would be torn apart. Third technique, pure bloodline. Silver quality, passive technique. Mischievous, playful, indiscriminate." Meng Long tilted his head, feeling that Jiang Shao wasn't too smart. Jiang Shao got more and more excited. "I'll make it out and place it in the Beijing area of the alien planet. You can cast a shadow on the Beijing on Earth. Let's see what kind of damage these huskies will bring to this world." "Huh." A cold snort suddenly sounded beside him. "Huh." Jiang Shao turned around and saw Xia Yan's figure flashing towards him. Xia Yan looked at the drawing in Jiang Zhao's hand and said, "In terms of being a dog, it's indeed inferior to you." Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. "Let's go, it's time to eat. Your sister asked me to come and get you." Xia Yan bent her knees slightly and reached out to touch little Meng Long's head. Little Meng Long responded happily. At the side, little Candle scurried over quickly and plunged into Xia Yan's soft arms. "That's my sister. That's my wife." Jiang Shao rested his head on Ying Bear and looked at Xia Yan mockingly. Xia Yan stomped her feet and looked down at Jiang Shao. "Cut the crap. Get up. Let's go home and eat." "Yo, Brigadier Xia, you're so authoritative. It's rare for you to have a break, and yet you're here to reprimand me?" Jiang Shao pursed his lips. Xia Yan said, "Me?" She suddenly knelt down and held little Candle in her hand, using it as a jelly cannon. She then sat on Jiang Zhao's face with little Candle's soft and supple, but, Little Candle blinked and seemed to find it amusing. Although Xia Yan had already let go, little Candle bounced on Jiang Zhao's face again. Jiang Shao was speechless. After putting on the sea-swallowing robe, Jiang Shao returned to the stone villa with little Meng Long and little Candle. In the dining room on the first floor, he could smell the aroma of food. Chef Han took out his signature dish again, and the aroma of the braised pork brought Jiang Shao back to a few years ago when they first met. Jiang Shao walked over, and Han Jiangxue placed the dishes on the table. "Come on." She placed the braised pork in her hand in the middle of the table full of dishes. Seeing that Jiang Shao was walking over, Han Jiangxue turned her face sideways out of habit, allowing Jiang Zhao's lips to land on her fair and tender face. The two of them had such a tacit understanding, and Jiang Shao could tell that such a scene had already happened thousands of times. After the kiss, Jiang Shao winked at Xia Yan provocatively. "Damn it," Xia Yan said through gritted teeth. All of a sudden, she walked over and planted her lips on the other side of Han Jiangxue's face. Han Jiangxue was speechless. Jiang Shao scratched his head and said, "This is my wife. It's only right and proper for me to kiss her." Xia Yan puffed up her chest and said, "She's my bestie, so it's only right and proper for me to kiss her." Jiang Shao suddenly turned around and planted his lips on Han Jiangxue's lips. Xia Yan was speechless. It's confirmed." "Xia Yan, you coward." Jiang Shao chuckled. Han Jiangxue glared at Jiang Shao and blushed. She kicked Jiang Zhao's buttocks gently and said, "Go wash your hands." "Serves you right." Xia Yan chuckled gloatingly. "Kick." Han Jiangxue raised her long leg and kicked Xia Yan's buttocks gently again. "Go wash your hands too." Xia Yan looked at Han Jiangxue aggrievedly and rubbed her buttocks before walking to the center of the living room and standing in front of Jiang Shao. The water droplets of the tear field surrounded the entire living room, and the two of them were washing their hands while glaring at each other fiercely. Han Jiangxue couldn't help but say, "Hurry up, you two. The dishes are going to get cold." Jiang Zhao's figure flickered, and he sat on the table, picked up a piece of braised pork, and put it into his mouth. Wow, it's fatty but not greasy. It's so fragrant. Han Jiangxue hugged Little Candle and fed Meng Long a piece of peach. She then scooped up a cherry and put it into Little Candle's mouth. She turned to look at Xia Yin and said, "You've been promoted to a brigade commander recently. How's it going? Are you busy?" Xia Yin pursed her lips and picked up a piece of pork rib. "It's all right, it's pretty good. I don't know about the others, but Xia Shanhai is very happy. My mom called me a few days ago and told me that Xia Shanhai woke up laughing in the middle of the night. Hey, by the way, aren't you going to bring your parents back?" Han Jiangxue shook her head and said, "It's been so many years, and they've already gotten used to living in that world." You didn't tell Uncle Xia about these things, did you?" Xia Yin said. "Don't worry, I didn't say anything." Xia Yin glanced at Jiang Shao and said, "Someone has been nagging me about it." Jiang Shao looked at Xia Yin and said, "If you want to go out and take a look, I can take you there. Excluding the main world, there are 8 other special worlds. Each world is different from our Star Warriors world. You'll like it." "Huh?" Xia Yin blinked, seemingly rather tempted. Jiang Shao smiled and said, "When little Jiangxue and I go on our honeymoon, we'll go to a few other worlds to play. Shall we bring you along?" Xia Yin's beautiful eyes lit up. "Great. Let's go on a wedding trip." Jiang Shao said, "It's a wedding trip for me and little Jiangxue. We'll bring you along too." Xia Yin shook her head repeatedly. I'm not listening. Xue is mine." Jiang Shao raised his eyebrows and exclaimed, "Mine." Xia Yin raised her face and exclaimed, "Mine." Jiang Shao exclaimed, "Mine." Xia Yin exclaimed, "Mine." Han Jiangxue held her forehead with one hand and couldn't help but sigh. Everything was the same as before. Nothing had changed at all. Little Candle blinked in bewilderment and asked, "Huh?" Outside the window, Enying Bear, who had smelled the fragrance and was leaning against the windowsill, rubbed its sleepy eyes and asked, "Ah." Imprisoned Dragon, who was sleeping soundly on the roof, seemed to have been woken up by the childish ghost downstairs. It moved its head and went back to sleep. Buzz. In the lake, the 2 big fish that were spiritually connected to Jiang Shao could not help but let out a few whale-like cries when they saw the noisy and warm scene. The ethereal and gentle sound rushed out of the lake and spread throughout the lake and the forest. End of the book. Chapter 1301. And Scattering Flowers. 1 year and 7 months, a total of 570 days. Yu's head was dizzy from writing, but he was willing to endure it. Thank you so many people for liking this book, and thank you for your support for the Little Toxic Healer. I should also report my results. The average subscription is 40,000 plus, and you finally got what he wanted. After 10 years of writing, 6 books, and more than 10 million words, he finally signed in to the Great Gods Agreement. The old readers who had been following you could tell that most of Yu's previous works, such as Evolution by Devouring and The Winter Soldiers, were filled with bitterness and hatred, and their style was rather depressing. However, he did not expect this transformational work to have some improvement. It seems that my mischievous nature isn't suitable for writing dark novels. I have to maintain my style in the future and continue to work hard. Actually, the Little Toxic Healer in this book was the same as the protagonist in the previous books. He just had a different outer shell. He was loyal, persistent, and believed in promises. He also hoped that in the past year and a half, the Little Toxic Healer would be able to bring some warmth and comfort to everyone. It was enough for him to laugh, love, and accompany them. Now that the book was over, you had time to organize his Weibo and Prestige Workshop account. The name was You Who Loves Writing. During this period of rest, when he was bored, you would write some short stories in the Prestige Workshop account. I'm so relaxed. I finally don't have to sit in front of the computer tomorrow. I can finally empty my mind. Wow, I'm so happy just thinking about it. There's a time for us to meet and part, and we'll meet again someday. Everyone doesn't have to worry about the Little Toxic Healer anymore. Although Jiang Zhao's story has come to an end for us, his beautiful life has just begun for him. Asterisk, finally, Let me give you a sentence that runs through the entire book. May the lovers get married. May you find happiness in the mortal world. Scattering flowers, bowing, getting off the stage. See you in the next book. At the top. Chapter 1302. The new book has been released. It's called Lord of Nine Stars. Brothers, please provide me with firepower during the release of the new book. The new book, 9 Stars Poison Milk, has been released. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1303. The 9-Star Poison Healer's simplified physical version of Star Advent was finally on the market. Time passed too quickly. In the blink of an eye, Lord of 9 Stars had more than one. For a million words, and the physical version of the 9-Star Poison Healer had just been released. Seriously, fortunately, we are both from the Star Advent universe. Our story is still continuing at this time. Yu's Weibo Yu who loves writing was doing an activity to draw physical copies of the book. There were also purchase links in the Weibo comment section. Those who liked it could go and take a look. Later on, Weibo would also draw some little Poison Healer merchandise and small gifts. The physical version of the 9-Star Poison Healer, Star Advent, was sold on Taobao, Tmall, Jingdong, and Weibo. You could just search for Star Advent. Thank you for your support for Little Shrimpy, Little Jiangxue, and Xia Era. They will appear again in the future, and the story will continue, definitely. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.